Hi there, welcome back after a short hiatus. With both the union budget and the Delhi election results falling over the weekends, we had to take a short break. This week has seen some crazy global geopolitical developments. The United States has led that churn both within and outside. From scanning government expenditure on transgender toilets in Peru, apparently with US taxpayer money, to telling Ukraine bluntly to fend off for itself. As America smokes the peace pipe with Russia, it has been one hell of a week. Pegging on the US-AID debate, I bring to you a deep dive on what's up with Uncle Sam and its larger relationship with the rest of the world. Also, what began as artificial is getting intelligent. The developments in AI are threatening to flip humanity into a disruption like no technology has done since the invention of fire or the wheel. Definitely not since first industrial revolution. Time for a hard look at the geopolitics of AI and where India stands on this front. Let's get going.
The Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. Changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory.
Sometime in 2010, America faced a big diplomatic embarrassment with tens of thousands of classified documents getting out in the open on WikiLeaks via a US Army private, Bradley Manning. The leaked diplomatic cables removed all the fog off the foggy bottom, the headquarters of the State Department in Washington, D.C. Most of the documents pertained to US wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and had some national security consequences which the DC establishment had to scramble to contain. But the embarrassing bit were the cables that described America's friends through the eyes of its diplomats. Candid, uncensored, even colorful. The descriptions painted an unflattering picture of American diplomacy in the eyes of its friends and foes alike. Some examples. Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi was described as feckless, vain, and ineffective, sharing a close relationship with the alpha dog, Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin. President Nicolas Sarkozy of France was said to be thin-skinned and authoritarian, while German Chancellor Angela Merkel was seen as non-compliant. One US diplomat whined at the rude behavior of the British Queen's second son, Prince Andrew, when abroad. Libya's Colonel Muammar Gaddafi always traveled with a voluptuous blonde Ukrainian nurse, according to one of the cables. In yet another, Hillary Clinton was seen instructing US mission members in New York to spy on the UN leadership. Why I recall that WikiLeaks episode? Because something similar is happening in the present. Only this time it is not through the leaks of an anarchist. This is disruption institutionalized by the Trump administration that wants to redefine America's engagement with the rest of the world. Not through secret cables, but through open social media posts on X and Truth Social. One day there is threat to annex the Panama Canal, other day it's about buying out Greenland from Denmark, and yet another disparagingly cajoling Canada to become the 51st state of the United States. Parallelly, techies in their 20s have been charged with reducing the size of the government under the overall stewardship of Elon Musk through newly created Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. It is through the work of DOGE that the world came to know of the deeply entrenched influence peddling operation of the deep state through USAID or USAID, superpower philanthropy that sought to fashion the world as per American worldview. From promoting atheism in Nepal to preventing HIV with supply of condoms in Africa, it is an eclectic, even queer mix of projects. The queer bit rather literal. US dollar 20,000 for drag shows in Ecuador as part of LGBTQ cultural outreach, dollars 55,000 for a climate change seminar in Argentina only for LGBTQ journalists, $1 million to boost French-speaking LGBTQ groups in Africa, US $3 million for LGBTQ community in the Caribbean, another US $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, and then US $32,000 for transgender comic book in Peru. The list is endless, but with a pattern. It is very difficult to discern any American national interest in pushing those projects, but very clear ideological position backed by political power. Listen to Trump's White House spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt.
And here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look. Because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
As a student of history, I would always wonder what one thing among many symbolizes the decline of the glory days of Indian civilization. What brought us down from the Sone ki Chidiya pedestal, from the high mark of the Gupta and Harsha empires, to the time when the Islamic invasions put a civilization asunder, from Ayodhya to Nalanda, from Delhi to Chittor. Apart from the ruins, there's one remnant, the Khajuraho temples built by the Chandela kings, their building coinciding with the collapse of the Indian state amid the invasions. Might be more than coincidental that the overt sexuality as depicted in Khajuraho timed with the missing holding empire in the north of India. That the overt sexualism in US aid projects foretell the decline of the US as empire is the thought I am left with. Might sound like pop sociology, but look at some of the incidents in America this past week alone. A military helicopter collides with a landing civilian aircraft over the Potomac in DC, killing all on board. Next day, an air ambulance crashes into a mall in Philadelphia with no survivors. Aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman collides with a merchant ship in the Mediterranean. The plane carrying Secretary of State Marco Rubio is forced to return to Joint Base Andrews after takeoff as it develops a technical snag. Rubio takes another plane to reach Germany for his participation in the Munich security dialogue. These are seemingly unrelated incidents, but there's a common thread. You can see a society betraying anxiety. There's a visible infrastructure collapse on the physical side, and then there is a psychological manifestation of those anxieties. It took a while for the Americans to realize that the world pocketed the money and went on to do its own thing. All the regime change, the hubris associated with influencing events of sovereign countries, propping dictators, demolishing democratically elected governments did not prevent the inevitable slide. One stark example. US aid funded a project for strengthening democracy in Pakistan through its political parties. Money is spent, US $21.5 million, or roughly 400 crores in Pakistani rupees. Result, two of the three main political parties, the PPP and PMLN, are family-run enterprises. Leader of the third, PTI, is in jail. The Pakistan Army continues its proxy rule. Pakistan remains the strongest friend of China in the region and the single biggest reason outside of Afghanistan for all the bleeding of America in the last 20 years. So, from Panama to the Gulf of Mexico, now Gulf of America, from the border wall to Greenland, every bit of what Trump has said or done since his election victory reflects the anxieties of a power in decline trying to reverse the tide. They are not the land grab of an expansionist power. They are more like castling, moat building to beef up national security. Doge is about bringing back fiscal prudence before debt cripples economy. Tariff wars are about getting off the high pedestal and look for equality in the Committee of Nations. US aid rollback is the rolling back of the Marshall Plan mindset with which the post-World War II America engaged with the rest of the world. No more paying from its pocket to buy influence. No more immigration at the expense of chaos at home. No more outsourcing at the expense of job losses in the national economy. A day before Trump's phone call with Putin, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth set the stage, announcing that NATO membership for Ukraine was off the table, and that if it wanted those territories it lost to Russia in war since 2014, it better did of its own resources. United States was not available to absorb the costs. Simply put, Europe is no more an American protectorate. Fend for yourself. In a recent podcast with broadcaster Megyn Kelly, Trump's new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said that America was now in a multipolar world with multiple great powers in different parts of the world. He also said that the post-war global order is not only obsolete, but was being used against the US. Basically, what Rubio meant was that the days of US attempting to run the world were over. To each their own. Hegemony had to end someday, just that Trump's America is choosing to end it on its own terms. A post-American world brought to you by America itself. Moving on now for the next one.